If you are a developer, then you must have heard this statement. It works on my system. To solve this issue and to ease up your deployment, we use Docker. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mayank and I am a software developer. In this channel, we discuss about the tools and strategies of DevOps. Today, we will cover the basics of Docker and its components. So, what is Docker? Docker is a virtualization software which helps developer in developing and deploying the application. It also helps in shipping all the dependencies with the application. In general, the developer provides the jar and the documents to the user, but user needs to install the dependent services and the libraries to run this jar. Docker solves that problem by not just putting jar but also the dependencies and the operating system inside what we call as a Docker container. And the user do not have to install all these things. The user can just run one command in his system and it will work. So why do we exactly need Docker? The first reason is whenever a developer develops any application, during his or her dev testing, they uses a particular version of database, a particular version of Java and many other dependencies. And when he shares the same QA for testing, he just provides the jar of the application and the documents. But that is not all that is needed. He also needs to share the dependencies that he has, like the database, particular version of Java. So the QA needs to install all these dependencies, then needs to test the application. If there is a certain discrepancy in the version, he or she might have some issues. And if the application supports different Java versions, then the QA needs to test all of them. And if there is separate databases that it supports, then the QA needs to test with all of them one by one, needs to install the application as well as test the upgrade scenario as well. Docker helps in resolving this issue because Docker not only ship the jar and the documents but also the whole environment of the application. So the QA can just test it using one command, don't need to replicate the whole environment. Another thing is, if your application is based on various services, then all these services have their own documentation which needs to be passed on first to the QA and then to your end user. They need to set up all these services separately, which results in huge amount of communication. So that might be an issue that you need to communicate all these steps properly. Docker even resolves this. So with the help of Docker, you don't need to provide separate documentation for each of the services. You can just provide one document and using a single command. All these services can be up and running when we are using Docker. Now, what are the different components of Docker? First of all, Docker image. Docker image is the component which contains the operating system, environment configuration, dependent libraries, as well as your applications. This is basically the artifact that you create out of your development work. And when you run this Docker image, you will get a container. This is basically your running image. In other terms, this is your application running, and you can create as many number of containers you want from a single Docker image. So you can upscale your application as much as you want, and that will depend on the host machine. Now what is host machine? So the system or machine which we use, where we have installed the Docker daemon, is called the host machine. You can have lots of containers coming from different Docker images. Each container have their own operating system and environment setup. These containers can connect with each other or with the host machine using the networking. And another component is Docker file. Docker file is basically a definition of your Docker image. This one will contains the step on how you are creating your Docker image. So from here you can download the Docker, and this is the link for documents, and here you can get started with Docker. This is what we call as Docker Hub. This one contains the public images which are there created by other companies or organizations. Here you can see the popular images from Alpine, Nginx, BusyBox, Ubuntu. So let's check out the image of Nginx. So here you can get the details about the image, like the overview. Mainly this contains the version which are released. This is 1.23.3. So you can use this version or whichever version your application is dependent upon. You can pull that image. Here is a command to pull the Docker image. I'll copy it from here. So I'll paste it here. Since I have not provided any particular version, it will take latest as a version. It will pull it from Docker Hub. Now as we can see that this has been pulled. Now I will check the images. So it is Docker images, and I will check for the Nginx image. Because currently my system has a lot of images, so I'll just pick up the Nginx. Here we can see Nginx 135 MB and the version is latest. This is the image ID. Now if I need to run this Docker image, I can just run this command. I provide the flag -name. This is the name of our container. -d is used to run the image in the background. -p is used for port mapping. So here I am porting my 8080 port of host machine to the 80 port of the container. Okay, so whatever process is listening to port 80 inside the container will listen to port 8080 host machine. So now it has started. So now when I have checked my browser, it is showing me welcome to Nginx. This is how quick it is to set up an Nginx server with Docker. The only thing that I did was download the Nginx from Docker Hub and run the command to create the container. Okay, then I can check Docker PS. Okay, so here it is showing me that there's a container running. Docker PS command will list all the containers which are running. Then this is the image which is getting used. It is up from 56 seconds ago. And then this is the port mapping that we have just did. Localhost port 8080 is mapped to port 80 inside the container. And in the end, this is the name of the container. In order to check the logs of the container, I can try docker logs. And after that, I either can mention the name of the container or the ID. So here it is showing that just now I have tried to access it from Safari. And in case I need to remove it, I just need to stop container. And then I can try docker rm and then the container ID. Okay, and then I can remove the image as well. So just in terms of minutes, I have installed Nginx, created a server and deleted it. I don't have to set up all the required environment variables because those were there inside the container. So here you can check about the more details for the Nginx. You can check out its Docker file. Let's go for this version. Once I clicked on that, it has taken me to the GitHub repository of Nginx, and here we can see how this was created. So this is the Docker file of Nginx, and here we are getting which version to install and all these things. First of all, this is what we call a base image. So our Nginx image is based upon this one, and then it has run several shell commands to install Nginx, which you don't have to do, and then it is exposing the port 80 which we have mapped, and in the end it is running the Nginx daemon. I think that's all for today. We will cover more about Docker in our upcoming videos. If you have learned something new, then please like the video,